Definitely, it has worked for us very good because this is our first time to have such an event online. We are used to people where we are in touch in person, but this time around, unfortunately, because of the COVID-19, it has taught us how to do things, e-tourism in other way. It has worked to our experience, and the results are good because people they've got a fresh air, and the people are getting much better in life. There's no one who's scared about COVID anymore, much more about COVID. But although people are more cautious, and we always keep telling them that we must stay at home, hence we tried to make this to work for everyone.
Because, Councillor, the KZN government has told us that essentially it was important for this event to go ahead because not doing the Durban July, even though it was done virtually, would have cost the Durban economy even more in lost GDP from tourism and even more in terms of jobs. So it was about impact. And that is my next question to you. How impactful would you say the virtual July experience was from the feedback that you have received potentially from business and also from the tourism sector?
Yes, of course. I will say that we've lost in some extent in terms of tourism because hotels are still locked and other places are locked down, are on lockdown, of course. But some of the people have get an experience of an exposure in terms of artists. They got stipends, and other artists are still performing in our Durban Virtual July. And among other things that we are doing, trying to our level best, is to try to visit these places that we have our lifestyles like Max Lifestyle, Eyadini, the Zone. There are a lot of places like Omashan Plan, Mojos, and other places. So people are still getting, though you cannot make much money for them, it's a loss for them, but at least there's something that we're trying our level best because we can't do anything because due to restrictions that were given by the government.
In terms of hindsight and looking back at what you have put together, you know, it was the very first time you put together a Durban July virtually. What were the biggest teachings from organizing an event like this virtually? What have you learned?
We have learned a lot because we are joined by people internationally. Everywhere in the world are joining us virtually. Our goers, our people, our travelers who usually visit Durban are not here, but they are able to experience this without being here physically. Of course, we wish to feel that experience, to be with them as we are used to be with them most of the time. But unfortunately, we cannot do that at the moment. But also, you will know that. Once we have this, it teaches us that in future we might as well do this, although the people will be physical here. Online e-tourism must participate as well.
And Councillor, you know, that's a really good point that you make, saying that you'll adopt this model for the future, even though, you know, social distancing might not be that much of an issue a year from now. My question is, though, that, I mean, Durban is well known as being a destination of choice when it comes to eventing, from business events to entertainment. And I'm wondering about the pipeline that the city has for the rest of the year in terms of other events that perhaps, you know, won't make sense to cancel. But given that we did the Durban July virtually, there's also opportunity to do those other events planned for later on in the year virtually. Is that the thinking in KZN at the moment, or the eThekwini municipality at the moment?
Definitely, after the results that we got from this virtual, we decided that we are thinking of, we'll sit on the round table and ask leadership that they must go through with the virtual, all the events must be done virtual, so that people can feel Durban and not forgetting about Durban and their experience that they are used to come to, and all the events that they are used to, because it is not just only us as Durban people benefiting from these events. It's meeting new friends. It's a place to be. It's the most place that people want to be with us.
The first question, really, it was around the virtual July experience. It's the first virtual Durban July that everyone has attended. Yourself, myself, the entire continent. I'd like your experience of what was put together at the weekend.
Well, obviously, with the dynamics having taken place the way they are, this has to be the way it has to be tried out, and the virtual is actually intending on just trying to remind all South Africans and continent people to actually to keep in their mind that even in these dark times, the Durban July can still bring a little bit of light in the form of the virtual, and mostly it's mainly about to try and just keep Durban in people's mind and reminded, and that it's a place to come to even after the pandemic.
Because from my conversations with the event organizers, they try to make it an inclusive experience as possible. So involving everyone across the value chain, from big business to SMMEs, particularly those in the township areas. What was the experience of township businesses in your view? Did the Durban July virtual experience manage to achieve its goals of being inclusive for all businesses?
Well, we could obviously say that it did try its best. Remember, this was the first encounter. There is a huge room for improvement, especially because all these small businesses, especially in the township areas, they're not so much exposed to or have equipment or equipped to actually go virtually and stuff. However, I would actually take my hat off for Durban Tourism, because they've actually did their best to ensure that they include all small businesses, including the township businesses.
Percy, let's take a step back before we speak about perhaps how this can be done better in future. Township businesses in the city of Durban, I mean, we know what is happening elsewhere in the world. They've been pretty hard hit. Is the situation any different in the city of Durban in your view?
Not at all. As you know, that the entire tourism sector has been hit hard. Probably the most victims of all sectors, basically. Businesses are actually under distress. Some of them, they will not even be able to recover. So it's not that unique in township. It's actually more severe in the township because of the historic dynamics that we already inherited even prior to the pandemics. So most small businesses, they'll probably not even be able to make it back to business to operate even after this.
Because just finally, I know that, I mean, tourism is essentially the bread and butter of the city of Durban, and they're trying to, or they'll want to save as many events as possible. So we could see a situation where even more events that have been planned for later on in the year become virtual. Will some of these interventions that you're trying to make there in Umlazi be done in time to facilitate those businesses to better participate in the events that may be still coming, but obviously in a digital way?
I wouldn't say that it to be done in time. It's not an event. It's going to be a gradual thing. However, we doing all we can to gradually get to that point. But we're going to be working tirelessly to ensure that we save as much as possible businesses we can.